everyone, it's Nadia from YARNutopia. Today we are learning how to attach our squares. It's our extra day of the year, February 29th, and we are going to attach some of our squares so that you can learn how to attach them in different ways. I know some of you have been attaching these in your own way, but I want to just show how there are many different ways you can attach your squares, and all these are kind of coming out at different sizes, so I kind of put them in different piles. My extra large squares, my large squares, my medium squares, and my small squares. So I put them all in different sizes. They all kind of just match up similarly in their size. Now with this granny square project, there is really no right or wrong way that you can do this project. You can make more of one design. If you really like this design and you want to make 80 of these, you can make a whole blanket with just this design. So it's really up to you what you want to do with these squares. But I am going to be attaching some of them, and then other ones I'm just going to use in different projects that I see fit. Some of these are not going to be part of any project. I'm just showing you in this project how to make granny squares so that you can do and get creative as much as you want. So I'm just going to show you 5 different ways today how you can attach. We're going to start off with a single crochet attachment, then our second segment is going to be a slip stitch attachment, then we are going to learn how to do a whip stitch, a mattress stitch, and a granny stitch. So you can learn 5 different ways, so just stay tuned in this video how to do that. Before we get started, I do want to mention, please check out all the links in the description of this video. At the bottom of this video there's the link to my blog where you can find out where to get all 365 days of granny squares. All of these are going to be in here. We only have 60 right now, but we will be adding more every single day. And also you can check out the link to the Facebook. Make sure to join me on Facebook and like my page. Make sure to share your photos on Facebook. I'd like to see how you are attaching yours, and if you want to, leave a comment to this post letting me know how you attach yours and what method you like the best. Also, check out my link to my Instagram. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, share your photos on Instagram, and hashtag YARNutopia. And for this particular project, be sure to hashtag 365 days of granny squares so we can see all of your granny squares and the color combinations and everything. I actually just went the other day and liked all of your photos, so they were really great. I'm really liking to see all of your posts on Instagram. Also, be sure to follow me on Snapchat. My username is YARNutopia, and also follow me on Twitter. In this video today, I'm using on my nails, I changed my nail color finally, and I'm using LA colors. And these actually don't have color names, but I literally got these at the dollar store, so it's a little fun colors today with little polka dots all over. So you can get, like me, go to the dollar store and get your LA colors nail polish. So also I want to thank my dad, Fuad, for taking the time out to make these videos with us. He is our videographer, editor, and photographer for all of our videos. So make sure you subscribe to our channel so you can get the update on when we post our next video. And also, if you could, go to our channel on YouTube on the right hand side. If you scroll down a little bit, there is a blue button that says support. Be sure to click that and support us in any way you can so we can keep bringing you crochet tutorials. But let's just get started in making or attaching some of our squares. So I'm going to start off with my extra large squares. I have these 4 squares that turned out quite large, and I'm going to show you. You can line yours up however you'd like, and some more of our squares throughout the year are going to turn out this size as well. So like I said though, you could make, you know, a combination of 2 of them. You can make all, like, a bunch of these and, you know, attach them however you'd like, but these ones just turned out a little bigger with the hook size I used and everything. So what you want to do is grab some yarn. You can grab a scrap yarn, you can grab you know, a whole skein of one color. I think a whole skein of one color would be best, because if you want it to be consistent throughout your whole pattern. And then we are going to start off with a single crochet. So grab your crochet hook. We are going to be using an H size hook in this pattern, or in this part here. You can use an I size hook, a G size hook, but we are going to stay consistent with all of our granny squares, and we are using an H size hook. So you have your squares laid out like this, and they are showing the right side up. And what we want to do is I'm going to attach these two first, and I'm going to flip this so the two right sides are facing each other, like this, okay? And then I am going to be single crocheting across this line here. So what we want to do is start off with a slip knot. So put your short end over your long end, fold that down and pull that through, and pull tight. We are going to insert our hook into the corner stitch, or if you have a chain one space or something, on this back side of this square. Okay, and then the chain one space or the stitch on this side, on this corner here, so go through both layers. Then we are going to hook on our hook with our new color, our color that we are using to single crochet across, and we are going to pull that through both layers. Then we are going to chain one, and then we are going to go back into that same space and make a single crochet. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and yarn over and pull through two. Now these stitches are not going to fully line up. There isn't going to be an equal amount of stitches on this side and on this side, so you basically want to just put your hook in wherever it fits on both layers. So I'm going to go right into this next stitch right here, and then I'm going to go into this stitch right here. Okay, it's going to look like I skipped a stitch right there, so I'm just going to go into this next available stitch. Then I'm going to yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over and pull through two loops. Okay, go into this square, into this next stitch, and go into the next stitch on this square, so both layers. Then yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through two loops. Okay, again, very next stitch and next stitch. So both layers, yarn over, pull through both layers, yarn over, pull through two. Okay, so we're just single crocheting across these layers, just like this. Okay, next stitch and next stitch, yarn over, pull through both, yarn over, pull through two loops. Next stitch and next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, and yarn over and pull through two, just like that. Okay, and then if you see how this one is turning out a little bit longer than this one over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into this next stitch on this one, but we are going to skip a stitch on this square, and we're going to go into this next stitch. Okay, nobody is going to notice that, and it's still going to look fabulous. Okay, again, now I'm just going to go into the next stitch. So basically, however you see fit is where it should be single crocheted. See how I skipped that next stitch? And then I'm going to go into this very next stitch. Okay, and then it lines up. See how it's starting to line up now? I probably have just two more stitches I need to skip on this other square because it is a little too big for this one. But like I said, I mean, yours, if you are making one square of the same design, you're not going to have to do that because you will have equal amount of stitches on the edge. So this is just for our scrap afghan, for if we are attaching the squares we are making for the 365 days of granny squares. I'm just showing you how I'm going to attach my squares. So just single crochet across this one square, just like this. And once I get to the end here, I'll show you how to go to the next square. Okay, so I'm at this edge here, and now you want to go in this chain one space and this chain one space, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through two. I'm going to pause here and open this up so you can see that this is how it's going to be on the front side. So you can see a very nice attachment there, very nice and clean. And then on the back side, there is a little ridge, so you'll know that this is the back side, and you can see that it kind of pulls up and there's that little ridge there. So I'll show you in my other designs, other attaching ways, that there won't be a ridge that's going to be up. You can see it kind of pokes out a little bit on this edge here. So now we have it folded like this, right side's facing, okay, and our wrong side is showing. And now we want to incorporate these next two squares like this, okay, and we are going to put the two right sides together like that. And then we are going to go in to this chain 2 space here and the chain 2 space here, or your corner. Just insert your hook into the corner, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, and now we just want to single crochet across this square just like we did for the other squares. So just single crochet where your hook fits into the stitches. See how I skipped that stitch right there? I'm going into the next stitch there. But again, you're not going to notice that in your big project. So I'm just single crocheting these across. Very simple. Okay, and you can do this for then all of your squares in a row. So if you're going to do a blanket, a baby blanket will be about 64 to 70 squares. Afghan, a lapghan, that's just going to be like a throw blanket, is going to be approximately 80 squares. And then you can go up from there. You can decide however many squares you need for your big blanket. And I can also put in the description of this video, I'll put kind of like measurements for sizing. So if this square turned out, these big squares, these extra large squares turned out to be about 7 inches or 8 inches, then I'll put measurements for the size blanket. If you want to make like a queen size blanket that'll fit on a queen size bed, I'll put the measurements for what size that needs to be in inches, and you can do any conversion you need to decide what square or what amount of squares you need for your measurements. So I'll put that in the description for measurements, so you can decide, you know, how many squares do I need for this size blanket, because I know that question will probably come up. So now I'm at the edge here, just single crochet in the edge there, and then to fasten off we're just going to chain 1, cut our yarn, pull that through, pull tight, and sew in our end. Okay, so we'll just yarn our needle and then go underneath these stitches, just like so, and then cut any extra and stretch it out. Okay, and I'm going to sew this end in too. Yarn the needle, go underneath these stitches, stretch it out, cut any extra. Okay, so now we have it like this, but we have still this opening. So if you were going to attach more over here, I would just attach like this. I would just put these two next to each other like this and then attach. But obviously these aren't big enough because there's that space. So you want to have same size squares in your project. I'm not quite sure how I would make, you know, these small squares fit next to this big square because there is so much room on this big square. So you want to have same size squares on the blankets, unless it is like a square that's double this size. So if you have a square that's this big, as big as these 4, then you could attach it into your project here and then put 2 on the side of it, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense, kind of explaining it. But anyway, so you would just continue on adding new squares, just attaching across, 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 however many you want across. And then once you have them across, you would turn your work like this. Okay, so you see it like this. And then we'd flip it and turn it this way and attach it this way now. So we would attach just how we did. So slip knot, insert your hook in the corner, and hook on that yarn, pull it through, chain up 1, single crochet back into that stitch, and then single crochet across, exactly how we just did. So I'm just going to single crochet across this piece, and then I'll meet you up when this is attached, and then we'll go on to working on the next style. Okay, for single crocheting, once you get to the intersection here, we're going to single crochet on this side of the square. Okay, and then we're going to hop over to this side of the square or these next squares here, and single crochet. Okay, so you're going to single crochet over the top of that. We're not single crocheting into that. Okay, and then we're just going to work our merry way all the way across like this. So super simple. So I'm just going to continue single crocheting across here, and I'll meet you up when I'm finished. Alright, I just came across here, so now I'm just going to chain up 1 and cut my yarn and pull that through, pull tight. I mean, if you have more squares, obviously you would continue working, but I'm just showing you 4 because you would work the same type of stitching all the way across. If you had 6 or 8 or even 10 squares across, you would just work the same type of pattern. So then sew in your ends, and there you have it. You can see then that your square or your blanket or whatever you're making is attached. So this is the front. It's a nice flat, nice sewn look. And then when you flip it around, you can see that there is a ridge for the back. You can see it's a single crochet. Okay, so that is a super simple way to attach your squares. If you have your squares done, I have to sew that end in, but there is one way. Okay, so now I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to show you next the slip stitch way. Alright, so I grabbed 4 more squares. These ones are very similar in size, and now this slip stitch method is very similar to the single crochet method. What we're going to do is have our right sides facing, and we are going to fold this up so that the wrong sides are on the outside and the right sides are facing each other, like this, sandwich. And then grab your yarn. Let me grab a different color so you can see here. Okay, grab your yarn, and you want to make a slip knot, so put your short end over your long end, fold that down, and then pull that through, pull tight, and then we want to insert our hook into the corners of our squares. So the corner stitch of this one is right here, and then the corner stitch of this one is this chain 2 space there. Then hook on our new yarn, and then pull that through, chain up 1, and now we can slip stitch across. And slip stitching is super simple. You want to pull up your loop so it is loose. We're not going to be slip stitching tight or anything. We're going to insert our hook into this next stitch here, and then this next stitch right here, okay, so in both layers, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through and pull through. Okay, then kind of pull that up a little bit because we want to make these a little loose, and then going to the next stitch and insert both layers, yarn over, pull through, and pull through, and pull up, insert into the next stitch, both layers, yarn over, pull through, and pull through. Okay, so that's a slip stitch method, and I'm just going to slip stitch across, and you can see if your squares are not lining up, you can skip this next stitch, go into this next stitch, go into this stitch here. So we're not skipping a stitch on this one, but we are skipping a stitch on this one. Okay, if one is bigger than the other, and then just yarn over, pull through and through, pull up, insert your hook in the next stitches, yarn over, pull through and through. Okay, so just do that across these squares, and I'll meet you up when we go on to the next 2 squares. Alright, so you just want to come to this end here, and I'll show you how that looks. on this side. It's very similarly looking on this side like we did for the single crochet method. So it looks very similar on this end, and then on this end it has the ridge on one side, but you can also see it through this square. So you kind of can see that it does kind of make a thicker ridge. So you can see that it kind of comes up a little bit more on this than the single crochet. Okay, so that's what the slip stitch method is, and now we're going on to attaching these two squares at this point. So make sure these are folded like this, and then you want to put these two so that the right sides are facing. Okay, and then go into this corner and this corner, and then slip stitch into this corner. Then go into the next stitch, and yarn over, pull through and through. Go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through and through, and just keep doing that all the way across. And I'll meet you up when I'm finished with this square. We'll fasten off and then we'll go on to the other side. Okay, when you're done, you want to slip stitch into the corners and then chain up one to fasten off. We're going to cut this yarn and pull that continuously through, pull tight, and then take our yarn needle and sew that end in. So if you had, extra, obviously I'm showing you two squares, but if you have, like I said in the previous segment, if you have 6 squares, 8 squares across, you want to just continue slip stitching across just like how I've showed you. And then once you get to the end, just fasten off, cut your yarn, stretch it out, and now your piece looks a little something like this. Okay, so you want to stretch this out to kind of see that it is sewn together. Obviously you want to use a color that is going to match, but whatever. Then we want to turn this like this so we can see, obviously we have to sew these sections, so you want to fold this down. Okay, so I would recommend having, if you have 6 squares across like this and 6 rows or something, you want to do all of these across first. Okay, so let's say you have like this, like those kind of rows. So we want to do this across, then we want to do this across, and then once you have all your rows across like this, then you want to turn your work like this. Okay, and then do this way across and this way across, etc., etc. So that's just my recommendation. So now we are going to slip stitch this part together. So just remember, slip knot, then insert your hook into the corner, hook on your hook, pull that through, chain up 1, and then just slip stitch across. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and pull through. Next stitch, insert into both layers, then yarn over, pull through, and pull through. Next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and through. Next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and through. And just do that across. I'll meet you up when I get to the intersection and show you how to get across that. Alright, so once you get to the intersection, I'm just going into this corner space here, making my slip stitch. Then you want to jump over this intersection and go into the corner stitch of this one and the corner space of this one in the 2 layers. So just hop over, kind of like how we did for the single crochet method, and then just yarn over, pull through, and pull through. And just work your stitches then all the way across, your slip stitches. Just insert your hook into both layers, into the stitches, yarn over, pull through, and through. Okay, just like that, all the way across. And if one square is bigger than the other, remember to skip a stitch, go into the next stitch, but don't skip a stitch on the other one, and go in and yarn over, pull through, and through. Okay, so just continue working the slip stitches across, and I'll meet you up when we're ready to fasten off. Okay, when we're ready to fasten off, we just want to slip stitch into the corner, and then chain 1, and then cut your yarn and pull that through, pull tight, get your yarn needle and sew in that end, You want to sew in your ends as soon as you finish, you know, one row of slip stitching across. You just want to sew in your ends just right away so that you don't have to come back and do it, you know, at the end of this big huge project. If you're making a big huge blanket, it's just a headache to have to deal with that. So then sew in that end, stretch it out, cut any extra, hide that, and make sure you sew the beginning as well. Just hide all your ends in. And this is just how I sew them in. I just take my yarn needle, yarn my needle, and then just go underneath some of the stitches. And then cut that, stretch it out, and there you have it. So then you can put this out like this. You can stretch it out so it lays a little bit flatter. But this is the front. And then you can see the back side, how that looks. So you can see that it does create a really deeper or thicker ridge on each piece, in between each piece. So your blanket will probably shrink a little bit with this design, with this attach method. I'm not a big fan of this attach method, but you can see that, you know, these are really close and slip stitched together, so you can't really even see the stitches in the middle here. You really have to stretch it out to see those stitches. But if it's just laying flat, it's really hidden really nicely. So, and then you can obviously see this intersection here, but it's really hidden nicely in between these squares. So that's the slip stitch method. I'm not that big of a fan of it, but you might be, and if you were looking for that pop, these really pop out when they are attached in a bigger blanket. So it'll have like more of a puffy feel to it. So that's kind of cool. So I'm going to set that aside and we can go on to working the whip stitch method. Alright, so I am going to grab 4 more of these squares. Here, I'm going to go like this. And in this method, we are going to learn the whip stitch, which is actually one of my favorites. So instead of using a crochet hook, we are going to use a yarn needle, and we are going to yarn our needle with some yarn from the ball of yarn. So we are going to just do that, okay? And then we have 4 of our squares, so we're going to put the right sides facing each other just like we did for the single crochet and the slip stitch, okay? And then we're going to start at one end in the corner like this, and we are going to pull through a ton of yarn, and however many rows, you know, you have. So if you have, you know, like this, and then like this, and then like this. So if you have like 4 or 6 or 8 or whatever, you want to go through, go as much yarn as you're going to need. Okay, and I'm actually going to put this ball on this side. And then we are going to go from one end to the other end. And we're just going to wrap it around. Okay, and it's basically just going in a circle, okay, around. So again, this side to this side, and pull. And just, this is going to be like a workout because it's a lot of going around and pulling, but you're going through one side every time. Okay, so you're not going back and forth, you're just going through this side through to this side. Okay, same side every time. And just keep pulling. This side to this side. Okay, and just continue pulling. And then this side to this side. And if one of your squares is bigger than the other, you can skip a stitch and go into the next stitch. But don't skip a stitch on this one, go into this stitch. Okay, and just continue pulling through. Nobody's going to notice that at all. So then go into the next stitch and the next stitch and just continue pulling. Okay, so we're just going around in a circle. And notice I'm going in on one end, so I keep going in on the same side. Okay, so I keep going in on this orange side here, going through to this green side and pulling through. Every time it's the same. Orange side to the green side, pulling through. And just continue pulling. So this one is a little bit more tedious. It is a little bit more, you know, exercise, I guess, with pulling so much yarn. But once you get to the end of this end of this part, then the yarn obviously gets shorter and shorter, so that's nice. But I personally like the whip stitch, and you can see, I'll show you, it's just, it'll come out flat, it'll come out flat on both sides. You know, like with the single crochet and with the slip stitch, it made ridges, and I'm not personally a big fan of those two, but this will make it flat on both ends, on the front and the back, so that's really nice. And this is the same type of method we used for the Gigi cardigan, for those of you who are working on that cardigan right now. So this is a very similar stitch. So then now when you get to the corner, we're just going to go in the corner just like that, and then we're going to hop to our next squares and go from this side to this side, just in the corner, and then you want to pull that tight so that it is really close to this square. Okay, and then you want to go into the stitches. Okay, and just do that all the way across. Super simple, just like that. So do that all the way across on yours, and then I'll meet you up when I am finished with this part, and we'll fasten off and we'll go on to working this end then. Alright, to fasten off on this, I'm just going to go into the corner here, and then I'm going to hold my finger into the loop part, like that, and then I'm going to go back into this loop here from this end, and pull that through, and make a knot. And you can do that a couple of times, so go back in, pull that through, pull up that loop, go into that loop, pull that through, and pull tight to make a knot. And then you can sew this in underneath these stitches, like that. Okay, cut that, stretch it out, and you can see that that's what it looks like. It just looks so clean and so nice. Oh, we have to do this side too. So cut that from the ball of yarn, and then take your yarn needle, and you need to tie this in a knot as well. So this is the very beginning part. So go around in a circle, hold up that loop, and go back around and tight, pull tight, and then go underneath these stitches to sew in this end. Then I recommend, like I said in the other part of this video, to sew in your end as soon as you finish a row, just because it's just going to be a big headache at the end. And stretch that out so it's completely hidden. And you can see that it lays flat. This is the front, so it lays completely flat, and then on the back side it lays completely flat too. So that's really cool. So now we want to turn this like this, okay, because these ends are obviously open here, so we want to attach this part here. So we just take our yarn from our ball of yarn, yarn our needle, fold this in half so the right sides are facing each other like that. So we're looking at the wrong side here, and now I'm going to go in from this end. Okay, so you can work it from this end or the other way that I was showing you, where we were going from the top in like this. We're going to go in like this now, so up and around. And we're just going to pull up some yarn, pull back around. So it's really whatever is creator's choice on this part, because whatever you feel most comfortable doing. And then we're just going up and pulling up at this point. So going in from the bottom one up into the top one. The other way I was showing you was going from the top square to the bottom square, but that's totally up to you. I find this to be quite easy either way that we do it. So just go back around. Now we're going in from this bottom one up to this top one, in through both layers and pulling. And you just want to do this all the way across. And when we get to the intersection, I will show you what to do at that point. Alright, when you get to the intersection here, you just want to go through these two corners. I'm going this corner space out to this corner space on this square. And then we're going to hop over to this square into this corner stitch here and this corner space here. And we're just hopping over to that corner. We're just hopping over the intersection, just like that. And then we're just going into each stitch across on this square, just like how we've been working. Just going from the bottom square through to the top square layer and pulling through. Okay, just like that. Super simple whip stitch. And then obviously if you have more squares, I'm just showing you 4 squares, but if you have 6 or 8, you obviously just want to do this across all the way, and then when you get to the very end, I'll meet you up and we will fasten off. Alright, so I come in at the end here, so I'm just going to pull this up, pull this loop up, just like how we did for the other side. We're just going to tie some knots here, so going from this square to this square, holding that loop up and going through and tying some knots. And then we want to sew in our end just underneath some of these stitches, just like that. And then you want to sew in the other side as well. So just cut that, stretch it so it's completely hidden, then go to this side and take this straggler. I just cut it off of the ball of yarn, and then just go around, hold up that loop, and tie your knot. And pull tight, go underneath the stitches, okay, and then cut that, stretch it out, and there you have it. Our piece is nice and flat, nice and sewn. I know that this is actually the most popular type of attaching, where it's just the whip stitch across. It's a very clean stitch on both ends, on both sides, the front and the back. You can see it is nice and flat, and that's just lovely. So that's actually one of my favorites. So I'm just going to now set that aside and we can work on the mattress stitch method. Alright, so I grabbed 4 more squares and I'm going to show you the mattress stitch method, which is a little bit different than what we've been doing. So we have the 4 squares. I'm just going to set these 2 aside and work on these 2. And you want to have the right sides facing each other like that. Okay, and we are going to pick them up and we are going to work on them like this, going this way. And what you want to do is yarn your needle with your attaching color, okay, from the ball of yarn. And we are going to work from the inside out back around to the inside out. Okay, so we are going to work into this corner space here, going in, okay. And it's a lot of pulling, kind of like with the whip stitch. Okay, so going in from this side out. Then we are going to come back around and go from the inside out. Okay. Then we are going to come back around and go from the inside out. It's kind of like a shoelace kind of thing. And then going from the inside out. Okay, oops, let me cut this so it doesn't get in the way. Okay, then the inside out, and the inside out, just like this across. So it's kind of like crossing over, kind of like the shoelace, like I said. So we're just doing that across this side, and then we will go on to working the other squares. And this one does lay flat as well. This is very nice and flat, very similar to the whip stitch, but it just looks a little bit different when you lay it down. So, but I really like this stitch as well because it does lay flat. So I would say this is my second favorite type of attachment method. So I'm just going to keep doing this back and forth. As you can see, I'm working from the inside out and then coming back around and working the inside out. Okay, it's nice to have just my finger in here like this with my hand inside like this. So I'm kind of putting my pointer finger in and then holding these two sides just so that there is space, but yet they're keeping them close together so that I can attach them like that. But whatever you feel most comfortable, in the most comfortable way doing it, is totally up to you. You can have it like this and have it coming back this way. I just like it facing me back this way, but totally up to you. So I'm just going back and forth, and then I'll meet you up when I get to the intersection and attach the other two squares. Alright, so I came to the end of this one here. I just want to open this up and show you how this one looks, so you can see that there's a little bit of space in between the squares here. So you won't lose any space, you know, your blanket won't shrink. It might add a little bit of room there because you can see that there is space there and it kind of is going across and across. So it does add a little bit of a different look than the whip stitch, but this looks really awesome too. It's a really great way to attach. So now I'm just going to fold this back closed. Okay, so we're looking at the wrong side. And now we're going to attach these other two squares here. So I'm going to make sure that the right sides are facing each other like this. Okay, so we're looking at wrong sides. Okay, and we are going to attach them. So now going through this corner here, we're going through this corner, and then we're going to go through this corner, and then we are going to go through this bottom one first. Okay, so we're going in to this corner from the inside out. Okay, and then we're going in from this inside out to this top square. Okay, and we're going to pull tight so that these are attached, and then we're going to attach these two. So we're going to go from this bottom one up to this top one. Okay. And again, if your squares are not matched, like if you are doing scrap blanket like this one, and say this square is bigger than this square, you can skip a stitch and go into this next stitch. Okay, just so that the stitches do line up. But if you're making a blanket of one of our granny squares, like say you really love like number 3 granny square, and you want to make like 80 of those ones. You can make 80 of number 3 granny square and attach them all with this method, and all the stitches will line up, so you won't need to skip any stitches at this point and when you're sewing them together. So you can go through every single stitch, which is nice. And it's just uniform. But I mean, if you have to skip a stitch here or there, nobody's gonna notice that. So you can, you know, make, or if you like two, I like a lot of people are making multiples of one of the squares and like making their own method or making their own blanket out of one of the squares. If you like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or however many, you know, you can make a blanket in a pattern, like an actual pattern, and you can choose your colors. I know a lot of people are using colors, like similar colors in all of their granny squares. I'm using just scrap yarn in any color that I find. But if you have like a specific color scheme, like of 5 colors that you want to use, you can, you know, do that. So it's really, this is a creative project, and everybody is just being super creative in making theirs, so that's awesome. So, but like I said, like some of these squares are going to turn out bigger, some of these squares are going to turn out smaller. For all 365 days of granny squares, I'm just showing how to make granny squares. That's all I'm doing, and then you can attach them however you'd like, and you can do with them whatever you want. I'm going to be donating some of these. I probably will keep one for myself just because this is such a big project and I want to reap the rewards out of it. But you can do whatever you want. Give them out as gifts, sell them, or make them for family members, or donate them, or keep them all for yourself. Totally up to you. So see how this one, I'm at the edge here, the last stitch here, and I have a few stitches left here. So I'm going to skip a stitch or two, and then I'm going to go into the corner of this one, and go into the corner of this one. And then we are going to fasten off. So to fasten off on this, I'm going to, kind of like how we did the whip stitch. So I'm going to go back around from the outside of this one to the, through to this one, to the outside of this one, like we were doing a whip stitch. Hold up that loop and go into that loop. Okay, again, go through, and then pull tight. Then I'm going to sew this end in right away underneath these stitches. Got that. Stretch it out so it's all hidden. And then I'm going to sew in this end as well, the beginning end here. So we're going to go around and around in, making a knot. You know, if you have a different way of tying your knots, you can totally do whatever which way method that you have. I'm just showing how I tie my knots and how I sew in my ends here, because I've gotten asked that question quite a few times. How do you sew in your ends? So this is how I sew in my ends. Very simple. So now you can open this up and see. This is how it is attached. Looks fabulous so far, but there is so much space here, and obviously it's not attached. So we want to attach these now. So fold this down like that and attach it with this yarn. Yarn your needle. And I'll show you again. We're going in from this side. Okay, and then out through this side. Okay, in, from the inside out, from the inside out, from the inside out, from the inside out. Okay, so it's super simple, and you get that flat look, which I really like. Okay, so I'm just going to do this across. When I get to the intersection, I will show you how to get past that, and then I'll show you how we fasten off. Alright, you can see I'm getting to the intersection now, so we're going to go in from this side to this corner space, and then we're going to go in from this side to the corner space. Then we are going to hop over the intersection and go in from this side to this corner space. And then we are going to go to this corner space right on this square. Just like that. And then pull tight so it is all together. And then just go through the stitches like we've been doing on these squares now. So back and forth, just from the inside out, all the way across. And then I'll meet you up when we fasten off. Alright, I'm just finishing off here. You want to go in from this side to this side, just like that. Then to fasten off, we're going to go back around, just like how I showed you before, and then go through the loop, and then pull tight. And again, we can do that one more time. Okay, and then sew in this end underneath these stitches. Okay, and then do the same thing to the other side. Stretch it out so it is completely hidden, and then you can see here that these are all sewn together. And it looks really nice. It's just a really clean mattress stitch, so it looks really cool. And that's a great way to make it nice and flat, just super flat on both sides. You can see both sides are very flat, so it's not like the single crochet or the slip stitch method. It's very similar to the whip stitch method where it's flat. So those are the other methods. Now going on to the next method, I'm just going to fold this up and put this on the side. Our next method is going to be our granny stitch method, which is very popular for the traditional granny edge. So if you have a square or a bunch of squares that are the traditional granny edge, which are the 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet, you know, all the way around, very similar like this, or even 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet around, or this even where there's 3 double crochet, then a space, then 2 double crochet, then a space, then 3 double crochet or 2 double crochet, then a space, that kind of thing. Or like this, like the traditional granny stitch, which is 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet. So if you have squares like that, we can do the granny stitch method of attaching, and stay tuned, we'll do that next. Okay, so you could do the granny stitch, I guess, on a square like this where it's all solid across, if you have equal amounts of stitches across on your granny squares, because that way you're going from one square to the other square, one square to the other square. And I'll explain that more as we go. So just grab your yarn from your yarn ball, and you can make a slip knot. So a slip knot is just putting your short end over your long end, folding that down, and then pulling that through. Okay, pull tight, insert your hook. Okay, and we're ready. Actually, I'm going to insert my hook into this square first, so this corner, and then put it on my hook. Okay, and then we want to chain up 3. Okay, so this granny method is going to take a little bit longer, so just pull through and then chain up 3. 1, 2, 3, and then put 2 more double crochet into that space. Okay, 1, 2, just like that. Then we are going to hop to this one here and go from the wrong side, going from the bottom underneath it into the corner. We are going to yarn over first, then go into the corner. Okay, so like this, into the corner, then yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through 2, and then yarn over and pull through 2. Again, yarn over, go in from the wrong side out, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Again, yarn over, going from the wrong side out, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Then we are going to hop back to this square down here and go into this next space, yarn over, go into this next space, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And you can make as many double crochets in there for the granny stitch, so you can either do 2 or you can do 3. I'm going to do 3. Then we're going to hop over to this space on this one right here, but we're going from the bottom underneath, and we're going to yarn over, go into that space, yarn over, pull through, there we go, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Okay, so we're putting 3 double crochets like that. 1, 2, 3. Then hop back down to this one here, yarn over, go in, And you see I'm skipping one because it's not going to line up, so I'm going to skip one space. But if this one is nice, like I said, if you have all uniform squares, if you're making all of number 1 granny square and there's equal amounts on each side, it's just so much easier to do this type of stitch. Okay, so I have 3 double crochet in there, then hop to this one and put 3 double crochet from the back side in there. Okay, then 3 double crochet, let's see here, we have 2 spaces left here and then this space, so 1, this and this. So I'm going to skip, or I'm going to go into this one here, so putting 3 double crochets in here, 1, 2, 3, and then 3 double crochets into this one here, 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to skip one and go into this one here for 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3. Then go into this next one on this one, 1, 2, 3. Then go into this corner for 3, 1, 2, 3. And then this corner here, 1, 2, 3. Okay, now you can lay this flat and you can see, you can stretch it out, that this is how it looks. Obviously this one is kind of coming out a little further, so when you finish your blanket fully, you're going to want to do a border around your whole blanket or around the entire piece that you're making, so that this pushes back in and it's all flat against the whole edge there. So, and you can see that here as well. So you can see that we are working across this way here. So you can see that it does work, it does lay flat, but it gives you more room between the 2 squares. Okay, so that is what the granny stitch method is. Now we're going to this one here. So yarn over, go into this corner and put 3 double crochet in there. 1, 2, 3. Then hop to this one in this corner, again from the back side. Okay, so we're working through the front of this one and then the back side through this one. Okay, and that's how the granny stitch method works. It'll lay flat then. So then we're going to go in between these stitches, and basically wherever these fit and wherever it looks good to lay flat, that is where you should put your 3 granny stitches to attach these pieces. And this will just make the stitches, you know, the pieces, it will lay flat, but it will make more room, so your blanket or whatever you're making will need less squares. So that's a nice way to look at it too. I'm just working across here, so I'm going to skip these next 3 stitches and go in here. So I personally am not that big of a fan of the granny stitch method, only because it's more work. It's just a lot more crocheting. But that's just me personally. You know, I have done blankets where I have done the granny stitch method of attaching, and they turned out so beautifully, and I really do like the finished product of them with the granny stitch method. But I personally like the whip stitch or the mattress stitch. So I'm just coming up on the end here. 1, 2, 3. That worked out really nice. So it's really nice also to have the same size square working this. So now I'm in the last 2 corners here. Just this corner, 1, 2, 3, and then this corner. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, then just fasten off. We're just going to chain 1, cut our yarn, and pull that through, pull tight, and we'll sew in that end. Let me do that right away. Just go in underneath these stitches. Okay, stretch it out, cut that extra, and then go to this side and sew in this end in the back here. Cut that. Okay, so now obviously there is a huge space here, so we want to turn this and attach now this way. But you can see here that this is laying nice and flat, and it looks really cool with the granny stitch because these are granny squares, so that looks awesome. So now we want to go through this front here and make our slip knot just like how we did in the beginning. Put our yarn on our hook, pull that through, chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and put 2 more double crochet in here, 1 and 2. Then hop to this one from the wrong side, yarn over, go in from the wrong side out, just like that, yarn, and then make your double crochets, basically repeating what we just did for this section here. Okay, so I'll just meet you up then when I get to the intersection, and I'll show you how to get across the intersection, and then I'll show you how to fasten off. Alright, I'm at the intersection here, so I'm just putting my 3 double crochet into this corner, then I'm going to put 3 double crochet into this corner back here, and then we're just going to hop over the intersection and go into this corner on this square right here. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to hop over to this square back here. From the back to the front, we're going to make our 3 double crochets into this corner, just like that. And now you can see, if you lay this down, we just hopped over that intersection there. So you'll see this top layer and then this bottom layer down there. Okay, so then you can just continue working your stitches, just 3 double crochets in here from the front side, then yarn over, go to this space here on the back side, and make your 3 double crochets on this one, then hop back to this square. I'm going to skip this one and go into this one here, just so that they are consistent, and then hop to this, back to this square, skip 3 stitches, go into the space, okay, and make my 3 double crochet, and just work how we've been working with these squares, and then I'll show you how to fasten off. Alright, I'm just finishing my very last square here, just like that. Then to fasten off, we're going to chain 1, cut our yarn and pull that through, pull tight, grab our yarn needle wherever that went, there it is, and yarn our needle and sew in that end just underneath these stitches. Stretch it out and cut. Okay, so you can see that is all crocheted together. Now obviously you can see on the edges here they have a little bit of this first double crochet here, on this part right here, on this side right here, and down here like that. So you obviously want to crochet a border around your piece if you are using this method. But this is how it looks. It looks really cool. It's nice and flat on both sides. You can see that. And you have the traditional granny stitch. So that looks really cool how that turned out. I really like it. So you can see that you will need to kind of manipulate it and block it, and I highly recommend doing a border, but just sewing all your ends. And like I said, if you have, you can do 8 across or 6 across or whatever, so you'll have to, I would do these rows across first, however many rows you have, so this row, this row, this row, etc. And then once that's all attached, then I would turn it this way and do this row and across that like that. So then it's all consistent with these intersections like that. Okay, so that is the granny stitch. So we can review here. We just finished the granny stitch method. Then right before that we did the mattress stitch method. Before that I showed you how to do the whip stitch method. And before that was the slip stitch method, which you can actually see on this side better. And then we did, our very first one I showed you was this single crochet method, which looks like that on the front and looks like this on the back. So those are the 5 methods that I have shown you today. Make sure to leave a comment telling me, what method you like the best, or if you know a different method, please explain it in the comment section of this video. And check out all the links in the description of this video. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I had the link to the blog, link to the Facebook, link to the Instagram, my username for Snapchat, all that stuff. And please subscribe to my channel here on YouTube. I want to thank my dad, Fuad Azmat, for taking the time out to make these videos with us. These are our 5 methods of crocheting our squares together, so now you know a method on how to crochet these together. I am going to make my blanket off camera, just whenever I want to. I'm going to attach some squares, but you can attach your squares however you'd like. You can do whatever you want with your granny squares. I am just showing you how to make granny squares with this project, and I really appreciate everybody who has joined in and who is just joining us and who has been staying with us from the beginning. I just love seeing your work online and seeing it on Instagram and through the Facebook. It's really a lot of fun staying with this, and it really keeps me motivated to continue with this project. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this project, make sure to check out the blog, and if you don't see your answer, leave a comment so I can answer it for you. And thanks again so much for watching and joining me in this huge project for the year. Happy hooking, everyone!